Hello my friends and welcome back. We have another flower letter. This is flower letter number 14. I'm hoping that we hear from Miss Lily Claire or hopefully her sister. Not really sure. We're going to open it up and we're going to find out who this one is from. Okay, so it looks like we have our little business card. I'm going to hold it up so you guys can see it. We've got two little kids playing on a tree. And I'm going to hold up the back of it so you guys can perhaps see it. I know sometimes the lettering is super tiny. Sometimes it makes it a little hard to read, but some of them are kind of funny. So we're going to set that to the side. Looks like we have some little, maybe some little letters or something. We're going to hold off. And then we have attention read last, and then we have our letter. This says Frisco City Sheriff. So this looks like this is going to be from the sheriff, and he is writing to Matt. So let's see what he has to say. We've got two pages. We have 2 pages here. Let's jump right in it and see what he has to say. September 30th, 1884, Matt. Well, Frisco is a fine piece of work, ain't it? Miss Moore tells me you're out hunting the bright stars. Having any luck with that? I hear those Senoritas are crafty at the worst of times, which is why every civilized town from here to Chicago knows their name and faces. I can only imagine what kind of mischief they're about to cook up out there in the wild with only your sorry hide on their trail. How are you, amigo? Thanks for the job reference, by the way. I was awful tired of deputying over in Pochie. Sheriff was crooked, and so were half the deputies. I'm lucky I didn't get a bullet in the back as a parting gift. Frisco's cleaning up all right. Got myself a cemetery full of John Does up on Boot Hill now. The crowd never believes me when I lay things out for 'em, and it gals me, Hickman. It really does. But most of the lowlifes have moved on. Only problem I've got these days is the White Widow situation. I've had 2 more murders, and your Miss Moore informs me they're all actually the same as the first 3. There was another unsuccessful attempt made last week. It's actually why I'm writing to you. Well, now, I thought this would be easier to break it to you, but it isn't, Matt. Maybe if I start from the beginning and go from there. You see, last Friday, after the mines got their pay and made for the saloons and, well, other establishments, a Mr. Sylvester Gambit, that fellow you warned me about, stormed into my jail with a lady's hairpin shoved almost clean through his shoulder. He was bleeding all over and airing his lungs like a salty old sailor. That's when I noticed a cloud of white fancy frills in his hand. I sat him down and extracted the pin. I don't mind telling you I found some satisfaction in his belly aching from that. He's as crooked as a dog's hind legs. I smelt it on him the moment I got to town. When he finally calmed down, I asked what happened. He told me he was heading home from the mines later than usual, and he ran into the White Widow. He said she must have been waiting for him in the cemetery up on Boot Hill because she floated out from behind a headstone and attacked. Gambit recovered himself enough from his flight that he was able to dodge her just enough to avoid a fatal puncture. However, before she can vanish, as she's been rumored to do, he got hold of the back staircase of her dress as well as the veil and tore them clean off her. That's when he said he knew who the White Widow was. Like I said, I thought this was going to be easier to break this to you, old friend, but, well, hell, I'll just come out with it. The truth is, the veil and birdcage he took off our killer belongs to your very own sweetheart, Miss Lily Clara Moore. Before you start worrying yourself, don't. I know she didn't do it. Miss Lottie and a dozen other ladies from the Vanderbilt show have already come in to clear Miss Moore's name. Apparently Miss Lottie never returned Miss Moore's wedding dress to her after you used it to secure Miss Moore some employment with the good lady. And further, I know Gambit's type. he's perfectly capable of handbungling simply to give Miss Moore a hard time and to tarnish her reputation. From what I can tell, he's still galling over at the fact that she ain't financially obliged to the greedy bugger anymore. That little dress shop of hers has really taken off with the lady folk in town. She's even started a sewing school in the evenings, 'cause almost every mama wants Miss Moore teaching her daughters the same sewing skills she taught those Danelle girls. The problem is, while I was busy questioning Miss Moore about her dress, Gambit was out stirring up the manfolk against her. Now, I've got a pretty good job of ridding Frisco of outlaws and outright low-lives, but Gambit's still a big wig in town. He holds a lot of men's livelihoods in his filthy paws. He's also got his own posse. Well, what's left of it since the White Widow's done her work. The point is, until I can prove Miss Moore's innocent beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm keeping her locked up in the jail and under 24-hour surveillance for her safety. I promise you I'd keep her safe, and that's what I aim to do, old friend. But don't worry, Miss Lottie and her ladies have got everything under control. The biscuit shooter, Miss Kansas, brings bread, cookies, and pies every day. Miss Moore's landlady, Honey Craven, brings meals. The other gals made up the cell real nice and homey-like for her, and her sister, Miss Katie, is here more often than not. She's helping keep their business going, see. That Miss Katie is sharp as cheddar. Miss Moore was mad as a hornet at first, but now she just keeps busy with her sewing. Those who think she's innocent, or at least care more about having pretty new holiday duds, keep showing up regular, like for fittings and such. Never mind they're taking place in a jail cell, and I have to clear myself and my deputies out the door every time they come. But Miss Moore says that if I'm going to insist on keeping her locked up until I can clear her name, I'll just have to pay the consequences. She's a fiery one, ain't she? You're always partial to that sort. All I can say is that it's a good thing the Lord blessed me with patience. 5 sisters and a real social mama. Otherwise, all the chatter and coming and going of the ladies and out of my jail cell would have already driven me disturbed. As it is, I've taken a leaf out of Miss Moore's book and found my own silver lining in it all. I don't mind telling you she's an awful pretty one at that. In the meantime, I've got something I'd like you to take a look at. These are some bits of letters that got slipped under my door last week. They're from a fellow by the name of Oliver Snape to his sweetheart. From what I can tell, he used to work for Gambit as the head foreman up by the mine. I've tried to track him down, but no one here seems to want to talk about him. You know anything about him or where he's off to? Anyway, have a look at what he's written. If this Snape is telling the truth, there's sure to be some big guns on the other side when I bust this open. I just want to make sure I've got all the whiskey bottles lined up proper before I start shooting. As for evidence, if you wouldn't mind sending the notes back with your response. Oh, and since Gambit seems to tear his ugly mug every time something sideways starts up around here, I'm much obliged for something more you can tell me about him as well. While I'm at it, you wouldn't happen to know who CJR is or heard of a senorita by the name of Maria Antonio de Rivera? Take care out there, brother. Yours, Sam. And then down here at the bottom it says that you can go to theflowerletter.com and go to their Learn page. And it will talk about some of the words that was highlighted in the letter. So, okay, guys, what do you think about that? So, we got a letter from the sheriff. There seems to be a lot of stuff going on in Frisco right now, and I really don't think that Miss Moore is involved in this. She was one of my first suspects at first, but I really don't believe that she is. I believe that it is somebody else. It is somebody that is right under our nose, and we just haven't figured it out yet. Okay, so here's the little notes, and let's see, this is Honeybee, 2/17 of 1884. I sure miss you. I hope you're coming home soon. Been taking my supper at Honey Craven's since you left, and it just don't compare. I'm adding this extra note with my letters because I need your advice about something that has me good and troubled. There's something fishy happening up in the mine. I don't have any evidence to support my suspicions yet, but I'm on the lookout for it. In the meantime, I'll be sending any of my findings on to you to see if you can't help me see what's probably staring me right in the face. You've always been the clever one. It's one of the reasons I fell in love with you. Oliver. Okay, so then this one is 228 of 1884. It says, Honeybee, I finished my monthly inspection of the new sharing of the mine. I let Mr. Gammett know what needs to be done before to be safe enough for the men to enter the new shaft. He still doesn't believe me when I tell him how risky the way they've been digging straight down into the earth is. Ain't nothing stable about it, but every time I bring it up and suggest they start digging horizontal like into the mountain, Mr. Gammett just says there's no time. The demand for silver is too high right now. Oliver. This one says 3/16/1884, Honeybee. I finally did it. I took your advice, bypassed Mr. Gammett, and went straight to CJR with my concerns. Hopefully he'll help Mr. Gammett see how dangerous the structure of the mine is. Despite my previous warnings, Gammett is already letting men go down and work those new shafts. All it would take is a little tremor, and the whole mountain would come down on those men. I've seen it many times before. 3/12/1884. Honeybee. CJR never responded. Not to me, anyway. Got an awful angry visit from Gammett about it today. He told me to do my job and leave the running of the mine to him. When I told him I was doing my job and will continue doing my job, which is to ensure the men who work in these mines are able to work there safely, he threatened me, saying he'd make sure I regretted it if I did anything to slow the progress of the mine. When he left, I heard him muttering something strange about CJR, lost treasure, and someone by the name of Maria Antonio de Rivera. Oliver. Then the final letter is 4/20 of 1884, Honeybee. I'm sending this off quick to you, with more to follow. I spoke to Mr. Snerd over at the town choir. I told him I had a few things to tell him about the mine if he'd care to write a story about it. He promised to meet me tomorrow at Honey Craven's for supper, but it turns out I can't wait that long, so I'm writing to you. From what I can make out, 4 deaths due to a collapse in one of the new shafts last week were covered up. I didn't realize they were being covered up until a Nellie Rancho, one of the washerwomen down by the laundry, told me her husband Clavin ran off with 3 of his mates to chase a new gold claim down in Colorado. Honeybee, I know for a fact that Calvin Rancher, Buster Longswick, Arthur Dudd, and Herbert Jackson were all killed in that mine collapse. Someone sent a false telegram to Nellie from her husband. She's fixing to go meet him in Colorado as we speak. Now, I don't want you to worry none, Honeybee, but just in case something happens to me, hang on to these notes I've been sending along with my letters. Make sure the sheriff over in Millard or Beaver sees them, and make sure something's done about it before more men die. All my love, Oliver. Well, that's super strange. I wonder what they're doing down at the mine besides digging silver that they're having to cover up. That seems pretty strange if you ask me. Okay, so we have the attention read last. So let's go ahead and open it. This should be a letter from Matt. Let's see, October 10th, 1884. Heck, Sam, I asked you to protect Miss Moore, not fall in love with her, silver lining my eye. I have heard of Mr. Snip. There was a lynching the day Miss Moore and I arrived in Frisco. Go see Mr. Snip at the town crier. Ask for the edition dated April 27, 1884, or thereabouts. That should give you some leads. Gammett is a swine, and it shouldn't surprise me if everything Snip wrote about him proved true. I wouldn't even be surprised if he was responsible for Snip's death. Gammett had dealings with McDonald back in Chicago, so that should give you an idea of how crooked he is. As to the rest of your questions, I've never heard of anyone with the initials CJR or any woman by the name of De Rivera in these parts. I'll write you if anything comes to mind. Watch your back, old friend, Matt. I think he thinks the sheriff is like moving in on his girl. I think he's okay. I don't think the sheriff's gonna take his girl. If anything, I see him and Katie kind of hitting it off. But that was the letter. I do apologize for being behind on the letters. You guys are going to see a bunch of letters, hopefully in the next week or two. But you guys let me know what you think about this letter. I can't wait to open up the rest of them and see what is in them and solve this mystery of the White Widow. I can't wait to see who it's going to be. You guys stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys back here in my next flower letter. Bye!